Well, the Texas Longhorns are back at it. Not quite game week, but it is a game week, Cody. We're in the game week for week 0, believe it or not. And Texas, while they won't have a game this weekend, we will have meaningful football this weekend that we can watch in the college football sphere. And we have Texas that, from what Steve Sarkisian said on Saturday, is going to be moving into kind of like a pseudo game week type of preparation, maybe a type of preparation kind of like you would generally get for a bowl game or a postseason game where you kind of get those 2 weeks to prepare. They're starting the install for Ohio State. We're getting news today that Julian Sayin has been announced the starting quarterback for the Ohio State game, as we talked about on the Friday show. There's a whole bunch to get to. Steve Sarkisian spoke after practice this morning. We're going to talk about it all, but first we have to thank our sponsors, the Man Eye Institute. See life better at the Man Eye Institute. Give them a phone call, 1-844-WOW-2020. 844-WOW-2020, the Man Eye Institute, for your next level LASIK, for your cataracts, for all of your vision needs. They are our title sponsor. Thank you to the Man Eye Institute. See life better, 1-844-WOW-2020. All right, Cody, just a bunch of interesting stuff with the scrimmage over the weekend. I think my biggest takeaway from what Sark had said afterwards was, for one, it felt like the offense looked a little bit better. Now, I did talk with some people kind of off the books, and they said that the twos and the threes on defense got a lot more run this weekend, and I think that probably could have had something to do with it. But still, it's good to hear that Arch Manning continues to not turn the football over, that there were some big plays on offense, that there weren't as many pre-snap penalties with the offensive line, and the other thing was, Sark said that he felt like he had like 15 or 16 starters on defense. Oh, and the other thing, Matthew Caldwell. It looks like he's playing well ahead of Trey Owens right now. What were your big takeaways from this weekend before we talk about what Sark said this morning after practice?
Well, I think just that. I think he said this morning, like the opening thing he said from the scrimmage this weekend was the eye met the tape. So what his eye thought, the tape matched, which is always a big thing in scouting and evaluation when it comes to speed and intensity and things like that on the open field. So I think that's big. I guess my biggest note and thought coming out through the weekend was just that there wasn't this abundance of like, oh, turnovers, et cetera, et cetera. We know the defense has been playing really well the last couple of weeks, but we didn't hear like the defense is still kicking the offense's butt or something like this. It was more of like the offense is starting to make plays in the open field, and the offensive line is taking a step forward, even though we had an injury and things of this nature. So I'm happy to just not to hear interception, stuff like this. Like, it's just the natural flow of scrimmages and training camp, really.
One interesting thing that I thought Sark said today was that I guess he was asked about players that he's been proud about their development. Obviously, just a whole grip of new faces that we're going to see this year. And he was asked about guys who's really liked their development over the last year. And so here's let's just go over these. So at offensive line, the first guy he mentions and the guy he singles out is really liking his development is Connor Stroh. To me, that's I find it really interesting, because if you would have asked me before hearing that, I would have said, well, if you look at your second team offensive line, that right guard spot behind DJ Campbell, that's the reason why, if anything were to happen to one of those guards, why Cole Hudson gets moved out to one of the other. You don't feel really good about those guys being front line depth, right? These Connor Stroh types. I wonder,
it says more about their just trust in Robertson to play center.
Yeah, no, well, I think so too. But golly, dude, I mean, when he came in, he was I always said that guy's a mountain of a man. It's like you can't teach that. It's like, look how big. I don't have his exact height and weight right now. What is he, number 79? 6'7", 341. He looks like a cartoon of a human. I hadn't really noticed anything about his feet or anything maybe getting too much better or anything kind of more refined about his game, but just kind of interesting to me that that's the dude who he says that he's been really impressed with his development over the last 12 months. Whenever you have a guy like, and maybe it's just because everybody already knows that Trevor Goosby's really good and that he's kind of the new leader of
Yep.
the new leader of that offensive line. It's like everybody's already seen it. But if we're just talking about pure development over the last 12 months, we're talking about a guy that went from being a backup to being a guy that we've seen play at the absolute highest level, play at a draftable level in his first real action in super meaningful games against really good opponents.
I would agree. I think that Stroh was interesting. Probably not the first name I would have thought would have came to his mouth. Obviously, he's not going to name a starter, I would say, but I would have generally thought potentially it would have been, one of the tackles, the Bakers,
NATO,
Chapman's,
right? You're like your starting guard.
NATO's the starting guard, so it's kind of inferred that he's had a good 12 months because he's going to be the starter. Like I was looking more towards I expected, I should say. You brought up Kibble. I think that's a good or you brought up the guard position, which brings me to Kibble, but
right.
I would have thought more like Chapman, Kojo, or Baker. Obviously, Baker's expected to start. Kojo's hurt, but Chapman would have been the next one I would have thought of.
Yeah. As far as the wide receivers, he of course mentioned Parker Livingstone, which should be no shock to anybody that watches this channel or this show in particular, which is a definite favorite around here.
I saw another note that he was asked about the backups behind, like the backup receivers, and the first ones he mentioned were McCutcheon, Lockett, and Niblett. And does that just infer and tell you that he looks at the first four guys as just like four starters? Because he was asked like who are the backup wide receivers? Like who comes to mind with what backup wide receivers is McCutcheon, Lockett, Niblett. So that would basically, and the reason I brought that up is because A, it was mentioned, and B, we're talking about Livingstone, and we've talked about Livingstone in a starting fashion. Not everybody in the Texas space has talked about Livingstone in a starting fashion.
I feel like they've had it. I mean, if they don't by now, they've had their head in the sand.
But I think that what that tells us from Sark though is that he believes he has four starters at wide receiver, right? Wingo, Mosley, Moore, and Livingstone.
Yeah.
If the first players he mentions as backups are McCutcheon, Lockett, and Niblett, that's what that tells me.
Right. And dude, Lockett has just been getting buzz. And I mean, I had the report last week. We talked about it on the show that Lockett was getting work with the first team. Then there was the reporting from Jason over the weekend that during the scrimmage, he was getting work with the first team. Maybe he's the one and not Jamie French or Michael Terry or Dalen McCutcheon or any. Maybe he's the one that Chris Jackson was like, I have a pretty good idea of which one of these guys might kind of break out in that same way that Ryan Wingo did from the rest of his class last year. We know that Khalil Lockett's a sick man. So is French. I mean, it could not mean anything right now, but it could be very, very important to monitor moving forward. It's going to be very important for you this weekend when you have your fantasy football drafts to go to rosterwatch.com and get the ultimate draft cheat sheet. The Ultimate Draft Cheat Sheet is a tool that's had over 1 million downloads over at rosterwatch.com since we invented it. It's super easy to use. There's 3 simple steps at the top of the sheet of paper where if you follow them, an expert quality draft is guaranteed. It's a visual tool. You can either print out the sheet of paper or you can use the online tool and just all you do is mark people's names off as they're drafted and then follow the rules. Okay, you're not gonna panic anymore. You're going to always draft a team where you're taking value at every turn, and you're going to have a well-balanced, awesome roster that's approved by me, that's approved by Cody. 1 million downloads could never be wrong. Go to rosterwatch.com, scan the QR code, get the Ultimate Draft Cheat Sheet. It only costs $9.99. So go ahead and dominate your draft. Have us there with you. Rosterwatch.com, the Ultimate Draft Cheat Sheet. Okay, what about the tight ends? So he talked about the tight ends. He mentioned Spencer Shannon and Jordan Washington as guys who he really liked. I think Amari Winston, I forgot exactly what it was, and I should know this off the top of my head, but I think he's a little bit banged up right now. Was that a shoulder for him? So he probably wouldn't mention him quite as much. But interesting to me, it felt like the guy that I've been hearing just kind of looking good behind the scenes over the course of the last week or so was Nick Townsend. Apparently, he's been kind of coming on a little bit, but clearly Sark likes what he's seen out of Spencer Shannon and Jordan Washington, the guys who I feel like behind Jack injuries are going to be sort of like the 2A and the 2B.
Yeah, I think that's pretty straightforward. We kind of were wondering even before the injuries thing, which one of these two was going to take the step forward. So I think it's big that they've both had rather solid development according to Sark over the last 12 months. So it says a lot about the future of the position, because I would expect Jack Andrews right now, 12 months from now, to be on an NFL team in a training camp. So 12 months from now, it should either be, a Shannon or a Washington type of situation. I would lean more towards Washington, but it means that they're both on track right now. That's really what that tells me more than anything.
And if you want anything to get you fired up about Jordan Washington, just go to the I guess you're here on YouTube, so stay here, and when the show's over, unless you go watch another Orange Blood show, when the show's over, like the show, comment below. We'll definitely interact with you. But after that, go just type in the spring game if it's on here from not this last one but the year before, and just watch him before he went out with that with that shoulder deal.
I hope that this is just bad. I just hope that our ending thoughts at Texas of Jordan Washington, when all said and done, I hope it's not just like that spring game.
Yeah, well, I mean,
that's where it's been like 18 months since that damn spring game.
Yeah, you don't want it to turn into a Jonte Cook spring game situation, do you? Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Not to wish any bad on anybody, but that's just,
I'm kind of worried about.
We've brought it up so many times.
Who's that Florida wide receiver that had the monster spring game this year? Was that Dallas
Wilson?
Dallas Wilson.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of one of those epic spring game performances. You hope that
he got hurt.
Oh well. So did Jordan Washington. Linebacker, he mentioned Ty Anthony Smith, and this one's just obvious. If you've been paying attention here on the show, we've been telling you, like, this guy's, I mean, he's factoring in. He's going to play. They simply, on third downs and stuff, they just like it better when it's Ant Hill and Ty Anthony Smith out there than it is when it's Ant Hill and Leongo Lafau. I wouldn't necessarily say that he's a co-starter, but certainly just like a key piece of situational depth. And somebody, when Sark talks about those 15 to 16 guys I feel like are starters on defense, like, you'd be crazy not to count Ty Anthony Smith as one.
We've seen the last couple of years, David Binda's played. You've had Mo Blackwell playing on these odd downs and stuff. Like, Ty Anthony's going to get run. I thought another interesting comment he had was he was asked about the best tacklers on the roster, and he mentioned 3 guys off the rip, but then he also said, and Ty Anthony Smith. I'm really proud of Ty Anthony. He's really grown a lot. Those 3 tacklers he talked about being the best 3 tacklers: Anthony Hill.
Yeah.
Can you name the other 2?
Best
safeties.
Tackler. Both safety. Okay, so Derek Williams and Jelani McDonald.
Yep.
Yeah.
Those are the 4 best tacklers according to Sark: Jelani, Anthony Hill, Derek Williams, and Ty Anthony Smith.
Taft's a good tackler too.
Yeah, but he's a little maniacal. Got a little Andrew Sendejo in him.
Yeah, I knew that Derek Williams would be one, because that's like his superpower, man. Just his ability to come downhill. It's like he's got that like supersonic stealth, like echolocation, where he's like some kind of heat-seeking javelin missile, man. He always takes the right angles, always gets his head across the bow, always wraps up.
I'm kind of upset you didn't like my little Rice shout out right there with Andrew Sendejo.
I get, dude. Here's the thing, man. I'm not sure that my brain completely even wrapped around that was a Rice shout out. All right, finally, Alex January. He's talked about his development. I think that's one of the most important things to kind of monitor. He's been working in with the ones. I feel like Alex January, even if you don't run out there with the starters versus Ohio State, he'll probably be in within the first series or 2.
Yeah, I mean that was the hope. I if you just take away all of the transfer defensive tackles and Shaw, Brevard, Canoe,
that's a lot to take away.
Vaughn Johnson. I mean, January would be your starter, and it's like all respects given. Like, if you go back 4 or 5 years, like, how far away would you say? This is maybe a bizarre question, but like, think about like junior year Moro Ojimo compared to Alex January right now. Is it that far apart?
Yeah, well, they're different types of players, but the answer is no. I don't think that those 2 players are that far apart. And right now we're talking about Moro Ojimo, who is on the defending Super Bowl champion Eagles, who is up there in Philadelphia right now fighting for a starting job.